Hello, and welcome back to another podcast, episode 8, where we're going to be diving into triggers. I'm so excited to bring this topic to you. I know this is near and dear to Lisa and I's heart. And, most people think that a trigger is just something that bothers them, but a trigger is actually so much deeper than that. And it's your body reacting to something that hasn't been processed. So, we're going to be diving into all the ways that triggers are a blessing for us, even though they may not feel like it at the time, how to move through them, and how to use them for your superpower. So, we're going to dive in.
Yes, this one is really going to be a little deeper than maybe you're used to. So I would recommend to be a little open-minded on
Mm.
what might come through and also give yourself a lot of grace and permission for what also might come through because we may bring up some memories and everything that will come through that will recognize the triggers. And we're going to bring up different examples. So you may be able to relive it, but also just give yourself permission to understand and have that awareness of what might come through.
Yes, we
So,
we
good.
may trigger you on this podcast, which
Yeah,
would be
literally,
a great,
actually.
yeah, a great opportunity to put into practice what we're going to share with you today. So, with so much love, triggers are really just an area of opportunity of growth for us.
Yes, absolutely. So, what a trigger actually is, and we want to reframe this a little bit as well during this conversation, and hopefully you can take this with you moving forward because a lot of times triggers, like Desi said, it's negative or it feels like it's hard or you have to heal from it, and all of these things that we kind of set standards and expectations on. But really, all it is just an emotional reaction that feels bigger than the actual moment.
Mm.
And I also want to preface that triggers and trauma, like there's bigger ones and there's also little ones. So even if it may feel like some trauma that you've lived through was like big T trauma or little T trauma, like triggers are very similar as well. It's your body just remembering what in a moment what happened and how you felt and your body is literally living through it again. So it activates a deeper unresolved feeling and an unresolved emotion. So this is coming from past experiences and it's not the present moment most of the time. So this is your reminder that it's just an awareness, it's just an observation and just noticing what is happening and allowing yourself to work through it at a later time if you need to, or just allow yourself to come to and just be present with whatever you're feeling. So this is an understanding. And we're going to go into a couple of steps to kind of work through it in real time or come back to it later because that's also very important. Sometimes we have a trigger that comes up and we have a reaction and we're like, where did that even come from? Or
Mhm.
I wish I didn't react that way. And we'll get into this, but we're going to give you some tools of how to pause and how to reflect and how to actually understand it a little bit more. So just a reminder, this is not anything wrong. You're not deemed wrong. You're not, bad or anything like that. And that's what we really want to drive home in this episode today. So this is really just trying to teach you something. But again, trigger is just unresolved emotions. It's just an
Mhm.
emotion that's been suppressed, that hasn't been looked at, hasn't been felt, hasn't been seen. And we're going to get into that more through this episode, but it's just connected to a past experience and how to dive a little deeper into it is going to be such a great tool for you throughout this episode and reminder that we're not perfect, we're human, we're all living an experience at the same time, and it's going to look different for everybody as well. I think the biggest part that you're going to hear from our experiences and you're going to also reflect on is that we literally make meaning out of everything. And when a trigger comes up, when an emotion comes up, and it could be a simple uh situation that happens and you all of a sudden react, you feel the anger bubble up, you feel the anxiety, you feel the pressure, you feel the shutting down already
Mhm.
happening because you're so frustrated, you're feeling abandoned basically, in your own body and in their own situation when it could be as simple as like someone didn't take out the trash, and
Mhm.
you're getting triggered by it because and it's like, what the heck? Like, what? It's so simple where yesterday you didn't get triggered by it, but today you did. What the heck?
Mhm.
And just allowing yourself, what is this meaning for me and what is the actual truth? And I can tell you that triggers are patterns. These are something that is a repeated emotional reaction. It allows you to, again, look at it a different lens, be present with it, and allow yourself to see what feelings are actually coming up because maybe it's the trash this day, maybe it's something else the
Mhm.
next day, but it's the same feeling that's going to come up and the same emotion that is going to be trying to be expressed. It's going to be trying to um, be expressed through you, through the body, because the body just, that's the only way the body knows how to communicate is through this emotion. And whether you react or whether you respond is going to be up to you. And that's why this podcast episode is going to be a deep dive and an understanding of where you're at in this process. And nothing, again, nothing against what you're doing, nothing's wrong, anything like that, but allowing yourself the space to recognize. And that's the big thing for both me and Desi, that we always bring our clients and whoever we talk to, and even just each other, that we allow ourselves to recognize and be present with what is and give ourselves grace during that time
Mm.
as well, because we are human as well and we go through triggers and moments that feels like, what the heck, we already healed this and
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, why
Oh,
is
I
this back
know.
again? And so it's just the grace part of it and the permission to feel it, heal it, and allow it to come through because the emotions just want to be expressed. And we mentioned this on a
Mhm.
different episode. You just need to express the emotions. It's just energy that is still in the body and allowing that to come through.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm really excited for this conversation because I know that I've been triggered a lot by people, places, and things that
Mhm.
I would hope sometimes like didn't trigger me so much, or I have triggered people and I'm like, wait, what did I do? I didn't know I was doing that. And if you know anything about human design, I am a manifesting generator 3-5 profile, and part of that is being a mirror for other people's triggers, which isn't an easy task in this lifetime. And so once I found that out, I'm like, okay, that at least that helps a little bit, right? Like at least I'm triggering people with purpose because I'm just being myself. I'm just showing up. I'm just like asking
Yeah.
questions and being authentic and showing up my bubbly self. And I'm triggering people and I'm like, oh, that's it's not fun to trigger
Yeah.
people. And also like
Mhm.
there's so much purpose with it. And so if you take anything away today, it's really that what is being shown through the triggers is the unhealed areas in your life that are still not healed. And as frustrating as that can be, it is so reassuring to know, like, oh, okay, I can heal this thing that is bothering me. And so I want to start actually before we get into some of this deeper stuff with the triggers. I want to explain like how triggers can work and be so different for people. So me and
Mhm.
Lisa will take this as a example. We're going to a restaurant, we're going out to eat, we're sitting down, we're sitting there for a while. I'm really like thirsty and I'm like really hoping that the waitress is going to come over, the server, and she's not coming over. And then she comes over and she takes our order. And I'm like, I look to Lisa and I'm like, oh my God, she had like such attitude. Did you notice that? And Lisa's like, well, what are you talking about? I didn't notice any of that. Right. So, like,
Mhm.
I could have had an experience previously from
Yep.
another server that was really rude, that was really bad. So now I have this perceived perception that if they don't come over and take my order right away, if they don't greet us, and if they aren't polite and nice, that they are being rude, even if she wasn't being
Mhm.
rude, right? So you have to think about triggers, they're personal triggers. And so if you think of a
Mhm.
snow globe, actually, my husband bought me a snow globe. It has 2022 on, or yeah, 2022 on it. And this is a big analogy that my coach was using at the time. And so our snow globe are all of our experiences, all our lived experiences with our loved ones, with past boyfriends and exes and teachers and our thoughts, our emotions, all of that, right? So when you shake up that snow globe, all
Mhm.
these things around you. This is my snow globe, right? Lisa has a snow globe, and that's
Yep.
her experience with her snow globe, right? So if we're looking at triggers like things that have happened to us throughout our lifetime, these are how our triggers show up differently for everybody. Because again, we can have the same exact experience. I could be triggered and Lisa would not be triggered, right? So again, that is the
Mhm.
opportunity for us to be like, okay, what's here from it? Okay, well, when I was 5 years old, the server was super rude to me and yelled at me because I was on the floor playing with, I was a kid and I got yelled at in the server. And ever since then, I have this perception that servers are rude and I don't like them. So,
Yeah.
is that actually true every time I go out to
Right.
eat? No, but that's how I'm perceiving it. So, a lot of these triggers come from our childhood, come from our
Mm.
inner child, comes from the unhealed little girl that's inside of us right now that is begging to be seen. And so when we have unmet needs and we have these emotional wounds that are still festering in our body and our subconscious and the way that we think and our thoughts and our beliefs, then those are going to come up and they're going to show up for us. And I have an example that I was thinking of right now with my husband. Like, we've been together for 12 years, and I don't know how long it was into the relationship, but we had to start talking about more money and have more
Mhm.
conversations about money. And it was
Mhm.
just this weird time frame that no matter what we talked about when it came to money, like we would end up in some kind of argument.
Mm.
And I wouldn't be able to handle the emotions that came up, and then I would end up yelling or like lashing out. And it was this for a long time that went on, and I was like, oh my God, I'm my parents right now. I cannot believe that I'm fighting with my partner about money. And like
Yeah.
literally every day growing up, my parents fought about money, right? So here I am having the same experience now with my partner because we're talking about money and I don't know how to talk about money. And so there was a lot of childhood wounds that I had to really work through. So we don't fight about money anymore. We sit down, we have a conversation, it's very calm, but it took a lot of work for us to get there. It wasn't something that was
Yeah.
simple. And so that is just one example of a trigger and a wound that was unhealed from my childhood. I mean, we've been 30, so I was 30 years old and we were like still having these fights about
Right.
money. And it's interesting when we really start analyzing and looking at what are some of my parents' behaviors that I'm took on, what are some of my
Yeah.
beliefs around money and relationships and other areas of your life and how you show up, and start really like looking into like how did my parents handle this, and am I doing that? Because chances are there's some areas in your life where you are being reflective of what your parents did when you were younger. You may realize it, maybe you don't realize it, but there's a lot of things that triggers that came from your little girl that are still coming out. So I know when me and my husband would get into little arguments, like I would immediately lash out. And a lot of
Mm.
this came from, ages 13 to 15. We have a lot of emotional reactivity. So we in those ages, we're like really coming into our adulthood. We're a teenager. We're like starting to understand ourselves a lot more. And in those ages, like if we're not really calm and we're not getting what we need from our parents and we're not getting reassurance and we're not getting somebody who's telling us that we're doing a good job, right? We can be easily triggered. We can start shutting down, lashing out, or feeling really overwhelmed by our emotions. And so that will continue to come into our adulthood with us because we never went back to that little girl to be like, hey, I'm sorry you didn't get listened to. Oh, that really hurt. And I hear you. You're not in trouble for crying. You're not in trouble for failing or getting an F, right? Like all these things that are happening to us that our parents didn't give us in that time frame are still showing up into today. So being really curious, what are some of the things from childhood that are still showing up for us? So it can be
Mm.
like feeling small, feeling rejected, needing validation, a fear of abandonment. Some of the patterns that can show up as well, like in our mindset and like who we are, we're thinking like I have to do it all alone, like I can't ask for help, so I don't ask
Mhm.
anybody, I don't ask for help. And then we're playing the martyr because everything's so hard for us, or we play the victim. I know for me, a lot of years I played like the victim, like of course this is happening to me. Oh, life is
Mm.
so hard, right? I lived in that mentality for so many years, and really being worried about what other people think of you, right? What do other people
Yeah.
think of me? How am I being perceived? How am I being, how am I showing up? These are all wounds from childhoods that can be very easily triggered from our day to day, right? Like Lisa could make a comment to me and I'd be like, oh my God, that means people think this of me. And now I'm feeling triggered in my body and my heart is sinking into my stomach. And oh my God, what did I do? I said something stupid. Ah, right. And so
Mhm.
if we don't have the tools and the awareness, like, okay, that's a trigger from my 13-year-old self who got left out and her friends didn't want to be friends with her anymore. That's what I've been working through lately, as I'm coming into building something new and asking people to join me. And so, those are all ways that we can be triggered when we don't heal our inner child. And so, with that, I have something very exciting coming up that I
Mm.
would love
Yay.
to invite all of our listeners to. As you know, I am an inner child coach and I help women come back to their little girl so that when they are feeling disconnected or left out or abandoned or frustrated, that they are able to meet that little girl with so much love and so much grace. Or if you want to go outside and play and have so much fun and tap into that little girl and go onto the slides like I did today and blow bubbles like you have access to her. So I have built an 8-day online event called Sacred Return Little Girl Big Exhale, where I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to do all of that, how to connect with her, how to be in sync with her and what she needs, and helping her heal those wounds. I also have other speakers coming in to share their expertise on inner child healing. Lisa's one of them who's going to come in and
Yay.
share with us and her magic. And so, if you are interested, it starts June 14th from the 25th, and we meet for 8 days throughout that time frame. And you can see in the show notes and sign up. It's completely free. So get your friends, get your besties, and come join us. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think I covered everything.
I'm so excited for it. I think it's so important, this work, and especially bringing up triggers and just the fact that Desi has this as perfect timing because it is a way to dive deeper on these triggers and really
Yeah.
understand your emotions and where they're coming from.
Hmm.
So, highly recommend signing up because I'll be there too.
Yay!
So triggers. Hopefully you guys listened to Desi and really picked up a couple of pieces and really resonate with different areas of your life now that Desi shared quite a few examples and quite a few reasons on why you're missing this connection to the little girl that is actually reacting and not your actual self right now in this present
Hmm.
moment. So this happens in real life, of course, right? So exactly Desi said, this is why we make so much meaning and why triggers are such a big part of our life and it's not bad. It's just because we're understanding our own experience in this real life and someone else's different experiences is can be completely different, just like she said
Hmm.
about the restaurant example, and it could be so many different things that could come through, but it could be so small and we're just like, oh my God, they
Hmm.
looked at me wrong, or
Yeah.
whatever could happen. And, you could either react or respond to it in a different way. I actually, I think I shared this on one of the other podcasts where it could even be somebody else, just like Desi said, like someone got triggered by you and they react and you learn
Hmm.
like, I don't have to respond to that because that's not
Hmm.
my energy. That like, that's their own trigger. And I think I shared this on another one where I was driving, was totally out of it, and someone was flipping me off, and I'm just like, oh, I had no idea that, like, what did I do? I really didn't think I
Right.
did absolutely anything, and I just kind of brushed it off. I'm like, wow, like he was clearly triggered by me for whatever I did because I cut him off apparently or something. I don't know.
Well, I think
Guess.
it's funny, like when you're like, if I'm going 80 and like you want to go faster than 80, like you can go around me because I'm already going like
Yeah,
15 over the speed limit.
right.
And then they
Yeah.
get so mad, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to get
Yeah.
over, maybe not, but I'm like already
Yeah.
going fast. And then if you want to get mad at me, like I'm not sweating it.
That's on you. Yeah, it's exactly. And I think it's such a great way to approach triggers too, because again, it's gonna happen,
Yep.
and you don't have to make them a big ordeal every single time. So this is your opportunity to be like, oh, okay, this is just information. This is just something that I can look into, or have I noticed that this same emotions come up recently, and how do I want to work through it now? And I can tell that Desi has shared, different things and in real life too, it happens where, you notice these patterns, where you notice these different parts of you as a kid that have had these patterns and how they react come through as well, in this real time, where I know for me, I am definitely more of a on the people pleaser side
Mm.
of things, and where it's like if someone has a reaction, doesn't invite me, whatever it is, or reacts or does something in a way that I don't agree with, it's like I shut down. I get quiet, I shut down because I don't want to be in
Mm.
conflict, and I think
Mm.
conflict is bad.
Mm.
And, that is sometimes what I work through, in different in partners and relationships and friendships and whatever it is in my real life that happens where I just don't want to, I think fighting is bad. I think arguing is bad. I don't want it to get there. And it's working through real time moments of being
Mm.
like, why do I feel this way? And this is going to be even be just about meaning in your own relationship, like if you exactly that, like arguing to me maybe means bad, or like we're gonna fail and like,
Mm.
we're never gonna talk again or it's gonna be a big major thing. But when you look at it in a different light and reframe it a little bit more, okay, well, let's just communicate. We can communicate amicably or understand each other better. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this is a way to go deeper instead of just avoid it, instead of brushing it off. And because guess what? When you avoid it and when you suppress it, it's gonna burst another way. It's you're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
forced to react in a different way when there's another little trigger later on. So this is your way to go a little bit deeper. But let's talk about how to actually assess the trigger in real time. So, we have a couple of steps that we want to share with you about when triggers come up or revisiting them later in the day if you don't have time
Mm-hmm.
to actually assess it in the moment, because that does happen. If
Mm-hmm.
you're at work or something else and you're like, oh my God, I like, can't believe that just happened. And you can come back to it later. You can tell your body, like, I'm going to come back later and we're going to talk about this because sometimes that's what your body needs instead of getting even more suppressed and getting more reactive later. So, the first step, of course, as we shared, is just awareness, just observing, just allowing yourself to notice, what am I actually feeling right now? What is this emotion? Where do I feel it in my body? What is this? Do I feel tense? Do I feel hot? Do I feel, and if you can name it a little bit, and obviously that takes some practice too, but just notice, allow yourself without judgment, without making meaning of it, just what is this? And that this can be a practice, of course, too, of like, I don't know what anger feels like in my body. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what disappointment feels like in my body. So it is a practice, but just keep trying and practicing it. And the next part would be going a little bit deeper. So now getting curious. So why is this affecting me? Right? So first is the what and the where, and now it's why.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this affecting me? Where have I felt this before? When have I felt this before?
The
That is a
first
big one.
time, yeah, like when's the first time I felt
First
like
time.
this? Because the chances are you can bring it back to childhood.
Absolutely. And that may take some time to get
Mm-hmm.
curious. And it might
Mm-hmm.
be like, that pattern that keeps coming up. And maybe you sit with it a few times or journal about it. Like journaling for me is definitely a really good gateway, or just expressing it to somebody where I can process it a little bit better. Desi, how do you like kind of
Hmm.
process, where have you felt this before? Are you more meditation? Do you journal?
Yeah. I'm more like reflective, like thinking about it, but
Mhm.
I also do like journaling, or if I really need to process it, I would say talk it out loud too, especially
Mhm.
when it comes to triggering people that I didn't mean to trigger. I think it's
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing that's happened for me lately is like, oh my gosh, I like that's what, And so there's a lot of that you have to like realize like, oh, okay, I was either just a mirror. And so yeah, there's every trigger is a little different too, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So true.
So I think it depends on like the trigger, who it's with, and like how deep it is or how often it is. Yeah, so it really depends.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why, just a couple of tools that you can try, for
Hmm.
when it does come up. If it's not a like huge one, then obviously you can just kind of reflect on it and see where it comes, and then notice the next time. And then the next time
Yeah.
you'll be better with it. And the next step would be about questioning too, again, going a little bit deeper now, a different layer, is it about the situation currently, right now in
Mm,
this moment? Or again, going back to, when was the first time that I felt this? When was this the first time that this emotion came up? And how did I feel about it this time? So again, what is the truth? What is the actual truth? And what am I actually feeling? So it's just getting a little bit deeper, every little layer of
mm-hmm.
understanding it a little bit more. The last step is about choosing differently. So again, a lot of these triggers, especially if it's something that is super present or super big for you, and you make it into a bigger thing at the moment, you might react pretty harshly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your opportunity to respond differently. So responding, pausing and responding, communicating differently. Maybe if you are in a safe space, if you did get triggered by your partner or a friend or something like that, like wait until you're a little cooled off possibly, but allow yourself to respond in a way, be like, hey, that meant something to me. And again, it's just allowing yourself to communicate instead of shutting down, because this also gives you permission. This also gives you the vulnerability and the peace to trust and allow these emotions to come through even more, because your body isn't taught to feel safe, or you're not taught to feel safe about expressing these emotions, and that's why the trigger comes through as well, because you're learning how to process it in real time with your body. And sometimes we don't have the tools to learn how to communicate these, or we don't feel safe, or we don't feel like there's trust, like someone's going to tell somebody, or you don't have that safe space to be held in that moment where it's like all you like Desi said, it's the unmet need. What
Mm.
did you need in that moment? So allowing yourself to be open and to receive that support as well in that moment would be also life-changing, because we all just need support. We all just need to feel loved. We all just need to be seen. So that is what triggers are all about. So allowing yourself to feel into any of these, use a couple of these steps, and use some of these tools to go a little bit deeper.
To recap, the steps were to notice, get curious, separate past versus the present, and to choose differently. So, like we
Mm,
were talking about the snow globe analogy, a lot of our reactions come from the past. And I
mm.
know that it's really easy to blame the other person, to blame the thing, to blame the situation, to blame, well, if you didn't do this, then I wouldn't do that. If
Hmm.
they didn't do that, then da 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 da, right? Like we are humans, and that is a natural response is for us to deflect, defend, make ourselves feel better, feel more, like we're right because it was their fault, right? But what is that instantly doing for you is giving your power away to everything else. Everybody else has
Mm.
power over you, right? So
Yeah.
if Jason decides to do XYZ, if Lisa did this, well then I'm upset and now I'm triggered and now my day's ruined and now I'm ruminating
Yeah.
on it and now I'm thinking about it and now it's renting space in my head and now I have resentment and I'm thinking it. No, we don't want to be
Yeah.
there. We want to come from a place of empowerment, right? We want to be like, okay, I understand that I'm reacting and I'm feeling triggered in my body, and this does take practice. This is not an overnight thing. This is something that I work deeply with, especially with my one-on-one clients, because a lot of people don't understand how to and where things are in their body, and our body is so intelligent and always speaking to us. So when we are feeling really triggered, for me, it's usually like right in the middle of my gut and like or in my middle of my like torso. I'm like, oh yeah, but sometimes it's in my shoulders, sometimes it's in my chest, right? And so when we start to understand that we have the power, we have the control, the people outside of us, it's dependent on how we respond, right? So the people outside of us are just a reflection of who we are. And so if we want to use the mirror analogy, which feels like a little bit of a trap, like, okay, if everybody's a reflection of us and they're a mirror to us and there's something in us that is unhealed and untriggered. So, like, what are they
Hmm.
reflecting in me that I need to do in order to not be triggered anymore because they're just a reflection of me, right? So then we can start going even deeper into our triggers. So I know for when I was doing a lot of work in my relationship and working with one of my coaches, I'd be like, well, I just want him to like work out and eat healthy, right? Like,
Hmm.
and the question becomes, well, are you eating right and working out and eating healthy? Like,
Yeah.
are you showing up 100% in integrity in all the areas in your life? Are you doing everything?
Mm.
And it's usually a reflection of like, oh, well, maybe I'm not 100%, right? So
Yeah.
that's really kind of what the mirror analogy says of like when we're triggered, it's usually reflecting something back at us. So being really curious again what that is. And so when a trigger comes up, and I used to have a very quick reaction when I used to get triggered, especially in my relationships. I would yell and I would yell very loudly. And there was a lot of shame in it, and also I felt so justified and validated to yell when I was triggered. Like, well, I don't
Mm.
know, that's just who I am. My mom was a yeller, love her to death. We learned from our parents. There's no blame, but dude, did she yell at us all the time? There was four of us, and then usually cousins. So it wasn't just yelling at me; it was yelling at the siblings. It was yelling at the cousins, and then she would count to three. And if you didn't get over here at three, she's counting to two, two and a half, one and a. Don't make me come over there. That literally that's what I grew up with. So
Yeah.
I'm a yeller. I was a yeller for pretty much my whole life until like my early 30s.
Yeah.
When me and Jason were really deeply in this work, he had a coach, I had a coach, and he's like, I really don't want you to yell anymore. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can not yell. Like I seriously thought that I could not stop yelling. Like I didn't know if that was possible for me. I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I can't make you any promises. Like I was like so serious about it. And how now looking back at it, it's like I don't want to use the word sad because that's who I was and where I was at, and that was my maturity, and that's what I knew for all my years. And
Yeah.
caused so many problems in my relationships because then he's escalated, I'm escalated, we're all escalated. And so obviously it wasn't serving anybody. So I had to do deep, deep, deep work in my inner child. And that's where I met my really, really angry teenager that I had forgotten about. I had done all these years of healing my inner child, like younger girl, like younger little girl, but not like my teenager. And so thank God I found that because I might be still yelling at my husband today. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
not. But like that, those things are so important for us to have awareness around. And so again, a lot of it is rooted in the past. So I would yell, okay, so here I am, I'm yelling and or I'm reacting. And this took a long time because it really is like pausing in the moment, like feel, okay, so this is why it's important to feel it in your body because you're like, oh, I feel the trigger in my chest. Oh, I want to yell. Oh, wait, no, that's not, so it's like really
Mhm.
catching the pattern in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not easy. And you will fail at the first, I don't know how many times I failed before I was out actually able to like catch myself and be like, oh, wait, I'm not yelling anymore. Oh, wait, I'm not getting attitude. Oh, wait, I don't have to be smart ass. Like, okay, like I have no shame anymore in my really bad habits because I have been able to move through them, thank God. But so it's really when you're reacting, when you're feeling the emotional overwhelm, instead of doing the thing you're going to regret later and saying the thing that you're going to regret later, it's really about like pausing in that moment and taking a
Hmm.
deep breath. Big inhale,
Hmm.
nice long exhale. Then choosing how you're going to respond for there. Because I guarantee you 85% of the time you're going to respond a lot differently, softer, calmer. You're going to walk away without having to say something smart off. You're going to say, I'm going to take a beat. I need to take a minute, right? So like pause, have the awareness, notice what's happening internally. Where is this happening in my body? Okay, it's happening in my stomach. And then choose how you want to show up. So having that pause and then having that awareness is really going to shift your nervous system. So what's happening in the moment of the trigger is like your nervous system is going fight, flight, freeze, fawn, respond right now, right? And so we're like, oh shit, got to do da da da. But it's like in that moment, we're actually taking the deep breath, we're pausing, and then we're giving the chance for the nervous system just to reset just a little bit. And I swear,
Hmm.
your whole world will change. So really, really giving yourself that and setting the intention for the next time. Like if you have a trigger right now that you're like, okay, I know I respond with an attitude, or I know that I get triggered on this thing, or I know when I go do this, like I'm gonna feel a certain way. Set the intention of how you want to react in the future. And then visualize it, picture it, set the intention over and over again until you get it right. And then just meet yourself
Yeah.
with a lot of grace because you're not going to get it right in the first time, maybe not the 10th time, but give yourself that grace because this doesn't happen overnight. This shift and change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen because I'm living proof of it. I can't believe that I was like so serious at that time. I have so much grace and love for that version of myself and really love for her because I was able to be honest about like I don't know if I can stop yelling. Yeah. So, okay, so with that, you want to start like self-soothing yourself, like speaking to yourself with passion, giving yourself grace, giving yourself everything you didn't receive, right? So,
Mhm.
with my parents like always fighting about money and always yelling, like I never felt safe to have conversations about money. So like how can I sit with myself and feel safe around money? So,
Mm.
whew. How are you feeling over there? Anything else you want to add to that?
Good. I'm trying to think of like, specific ones that I can share too. I'm gonna have to, I feel like, think a little bit more about it because I feel like you have such good examples and I'm like, I don't know. Like
We're very different, which I think is perfect for
yeah,
our audience because I'm like the
yeah,
fire energy and you're more like the
yes.
soft, like knock it or spawn. And I have to be honest, sometimes I'm like, girl, you need to use that voice. You need to speak up. You
Yeah,
need to set the
yeah, for
boundary. You need
sure.
to just tell them
Yep.
it is what it is.
And that's where the difference is, either you did live in a I feel like that happens a lot of
Yeah.
different relationships and friendships and stuff where it's like one person lived in like you said, like there was just a lot of yelling and that's what you learned. It's the pattern that you've
Yeah.
learned. And where it's like my pattern too is like I didn't have much yelling, at least that I remember. And then, but it's like I had to be good or like I wanted to make sure I was
Mm.
good. And so I shut down. And so I didn't express, and that's where it's like I attracted Desi the fire so she could help me express, it's like I was actually talking about that in yoga today too, where we're like my other friend that is also fire, and we're like, and she's like, I think I do attract like more like grounded like air like earth and like water people, and she's like, I needed that grounding, and I was like, I need the fire, so I attracted you,
Right.
so it's like I attracted Desi, like because it allows us as well to expand and to hear from different experiences and to realize that like, oh, you can be expressive and not, it doesn't mean a bad thing, like
Yeah.
like it's kind of like what we're kind of coming up to right now, a lot of these emotions that are coming up and triggers that are coming up with us creating and being on social media
Mm,
and creating our podcast, right? Like it's like the time of I can think of like performing and dancing and like or cheerleading, right? Like I had to look
mm,
perfect. I had to be like, nothing is fine, put a smile on your face. It's like, and I had to like in a sense play small because it's like I had to fit in.
mm,
Because for me, like being expressive and being big and being putting myself out there is scary,
mm,
or you're labeled a certain thing or whatever that is. And I think I remember coming up with that in the inner child program that you did, like we talked about it, like where it
mm,
was like I don't want to play small anymore.
mm,
I want to
mm.
learn that like expression is healthy, and like
Powerful.
I get to, yeah, it's so powerful, and you remind me of that. So
Mm.
that is very helpful, like, and I'm grateful for that, and again,
Yeah.
it's these little triggers. I just recognize them as they show up.
So curious from your side of really just kind of that fawn freeze, like don't
Yeah.
respond, people pleasing. What would you suggest to somebody who does shut down and doesn't express themselves, right? When they're feeling triggered, like what
Mhm.
would you say
Mhm.
their biggest thing they can do in order to like start shifting that?
Yeah. I think kind of like what I said earlier when we were talking about the different tools is I had to learn that like it was safe to communicate what I was feeling and express.
And how do you
Right.
find that
Like
safety?
finding people that could hold it for me, like you, for
Mm,
example, and also my partner, like when we have
yeah.
some deeper conversations, like it's hard still to like
Yeah.
really express what
Yeah.
I'm feeling because
You've
it
come really
feels like,
far though.
yeah, 100%. Like, and I think that it still happens, right? It still
Mhm.
happens when you're not having an argument per se, but it's just like just in a situation, it's like or even just saying what I need, right? Like or what I want.
That
Like,
part.
that part is hard. Because again, it's like, I'm just gonna do it myself, or like,
Yeah.
I'm fine. I wore the I'm fine mask for years,
Yeah.
because I didn't want anyone to think I wasn't fine.
Mhm.
I wanted to feel and seem that like everything was great, and a lot of times you're not great all the time. Like it's
Right.
not realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that's where expressing myself and doing this work has been such a game changer, because and having people specifically like you and a big supportive community that
Mhm.
I'm starting to heal that, that trigger,
Yeah.
and like, no, I can express. People are actually listening. Like, we have something to say, and
Yeah.
it's important, and I have this gift, and like that has been such a healing thing for me, the healing journey right now for me, I would say.
I love that. That's beautiful. And with us being in business and entrepreneurs and putting our life work out there into
Yeah.
the ethers, into the world, into the
Yeah.
socials and all that, it is one of those things that we are asking almost to be a trigger for others so that they can see
Yeah.
their pain, so that they can heal it. And
Yeah.
so that goes into like a whole nother embodiment of this practice. And I've unfortunately had other healers and coaches that I thought understood triggers because I thought this was like an understanding that like triggers are a mirror, and so like if I triggered you, it's really a reflection of you. So like work through your trigger, but then come to me so that we can have the conversation, right? But I
Yeah.
have been in circles with other facilitators where they were triggered, and instead of like working through the trigger and then talking about the thing, it was like, oh, they just didn't deal with the trigger and they just were like, okay,
Mm,
we're ending this or whatever it was, right? So it's like
yeah.
it's so important that people understand this in all areas of life, like that triggers really just are an opportunity. They're gold. They're something for us to look at and for growth. And I love the way everything that you were explaining of like being able to use your voice, because I think people do get triggered and they
Yeah.
don't work through it. And so they just like they leave. They don't respond. They ghost, right? And so like no one likes to be ghosted. No one likes to be, told that they don't want to be friends anymore because they were triggered and they don't know how to handle it. And so it's really an invitation for all all of us to start looking at our triggers through a different lens and through a new lens.
Hmm.
And I'm going to put me and Lisa on the spot right now and ask us, like, what is one thing that's been really triggering for us lately?
Mm.
I was like thinking, what am I going to say when I ask this question? I think the biggest thing for me, I'll give you a chance to talk about or to think about
Yeah.
it, is it's my business. My business triggers me.
Yeah.
And it's really about like putting effort and work into things that I don't feel are the exact results that I would like to get out of the effort that I'm
Mm.
putting in. And so it's like, okay, well, what is that a reflection of me? It's like, okay, putting expectations. I'm putting expectations that the work that I'm doing has to have this, right? So like right there, I'm already putting expectations on myself and my business and how I'm showing up. And so being able to look at that and be like, okay, well, what if I didn't put expectations? What if I did this just because I want to serve people? And even if it just helps one person, that's all that matters, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's a reoccurring thing for me because I want to make such a big impact and I want
Yeah.
to reach more people. And I also have to trust the process and God is, leading the way and I don't know
Yeah.
everything and I just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. I think that's such a big thing for obviously both of us, but I'm gonna say yes to that, but the bigger trigger that I come up to a lot more is that leads to that is social media. Like
Mm-hmm.
scrolling social media
Mm-hmm.
because I am, because I'm triggered because I am not maybe like, I'm starting to doubt myself with my
Mm-hmm.
business or like the what I'm posting or then I'm like
Mm-hmm.
comparing myself and
Mm-hmm.
triggered. I think that's what it is. It's a lot of the comparison and the scrolling of just feeling triggered to being like, why am I not where they are?
Right.
Or or even
That
a friend,
too.
that I see my friend being on there and or like, they didn't like my post or like, whatever. And it's like
Rude.
some of those things have definitely been more present for me lately, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And that's an honest truth where I haven't
Yeah.
really heard that. So like, to admit that out loud is kind of
Hmm.
scary. But
Yeah.
that's the truth, like
Yeah.
the highlight reel is not always real either. Like
Yeah.
being on social media and I have to because of doing a lot of this energy work that I'm doing right now, like really coming back to my intuition over and over and over again and like
Hmm.
recognizing the pattern when I'm scrolling too much and getting
Yeah.
into that spiral and being
Yeah.
like, nope, off. And I have timers on all like my apps and stuff. So like
Good.
it does help me to like recognize that. But sometimes I need it more, Sometimes I'm like, oh, why am or like I have recognized right lately where I'm doing that or I'm doing something else and I'm getting distracted and
Hmm.
I'm like, what is actually happening right now?
Hmm.
What am I actually needing right now? It's
Yeah.
coming back to those needs. Like, what do I actually
Hmm.
need right now? Because it's not social media.
No,
It's not, it's not doing whatever else that I'm, distracting myself from, And I
no.
feel like that has definitely been really present for me as well right
Mm.
now.
Yeah, I'm obviously have had that, and obviously maybe it's not obvious, but I have had that too. No, I know you know it that I have as well, but I feel like I'm starting to shift that, which has been really fun.
Yeah.
Instead of because I grew up very competitive, so it's like, well,
Mm,
I'm in comparison to everybody because I grew up competitive. That's how my dad showed us love and we did sports and all that kind of stuff. So and
yeah.
it does serve in some instances, not in
Yeah.
the social media world where everything's just a highlight, right? So
Right.
I've been finding that like happiness and joy for others that I'm seeing that are having success, which has been really fun.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
haven't been scrolling too much either because I've been so busy creating Sacred
Yes.
Return. And it's been nice actually not scrolling, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just recognizing. It's just recognizing
yeah.
the pattern and understanding it and giving yourself compassion in the moment. Because
Mhm.
guess what? We're all human. We
Yep.
go back to these cycles because we're not used to it or we're hitting that edge and we're like, oh, well, it's more comfortable just to keep scrolling instead of creating, or like listening to my intuition because I don't want to listen to it right now, like which
Right.
we've shared before as well. Like, it's not an easy path, being on it's not an easy path what we're doing, but
Yeah.
we're still showing up and we're doing it. And
Here we are.
that's all that matters. Yep, yep, yep.
Well, I was just listening to a really big coach in the industry, and they were talking about like you're gonna have so many people love you, but you got to be ready for the people that are not gonna like you. And I
Yeah.
know that I'm preparing for that, and that's exciting
Yes.
and also really scary and all the things. So,
Yep.
well,
Feeling
great
that too.
episode,
Mhm.
and we want to leave you guys with some closing reflections, thoughts.
Yes.
One of them here is what triggers keep showing up in your life? Which one is the one that you keep coming up against? And you're like, oh, dang it, I thought I was going to change that. Or, oh, dang it, it's still coming up. Or maybe you're not even realizing it, but this is going to bring awareness to it. But what is the thing that keeps coming up in your life over and over again that's a trigger? Maybe it's one thing, maybe it's a few things. Being so curious about that and then taking it through the steps that Lisa went over with you.
Hmm.
And what might they be trying to teach you? What is the lesson? What is the takeaway? What is the thing that you need to meet yourself about meeting that little girl or getting support from a friend or writing in your journal or whatever that looks like? So, what might that be teaching you? And what would it look like if you responded instead of react?
Hmm.
A lot
Hmm.
different.
Yes. And I could add to that really quickly. If you feel like you're like, I don't know how I would respond, in that moment. Sometimes we have to actually visualize and like put ourselves in
Mm,
that moment again and be like, what if I reacted differently? Because it
yeah.
will also share with you, like if you want to react a different way, because maybe you're used to yelling as well, because that's the best way for you to express yourself. What if you actually communicated? And what if, and allow yourself to play out like the other person, if you're talking to somebody, right? And allow yourself to play out what you think is going to happen from the other person and then what you hope to happen,
Mm,
right? Because then it'll also help you to be like, oh, there's different opportunities here. Or like I automatically think they're going to start yelling too, so I'm going to yell back again because I
mm,
need to be heard, I need to be seen. What if you actually had a calm, cool conversation and it went really well and you were like, wow, I it's safe to express this now and I
mm,
don't have to yell. Now you created that safety within your body, even if it's just a visualization. Your body will recognize it and
mm,
realize, oh, I don't have to yell. It's okay to express myself in a
mm,
calm way because someone else is also listening and receiving it as well. Maybe
mm,
you get a hug. Maybe you need a hug.
mm.
Sometimes we need just that touch and just that support. So allow yourself to play with those scenarios as well. I think will be really supportive.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, save all the things so we can spread this message and this mission far and wide. We appreciate you
Yep.
guys so much. Please leave us a testimonial and let us know what you loved about the podcast. Find us on Instagram, Real Talk, Real Healing Podcast, and let us know if there's any topics that you guys want us to cover or
Yep.
anything in between.
Yeah. And don't forget to review and share it with us to our Instagram, our Real Talk Real Healing podcast Instagram. So that way be entered into our giveaway. We're going to be allowing you to still go through June as you listen to these episodes. So you still got some time to enter in.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.